Good morning and welcome to today's meeting of the ESPO Finance and Audit Subcommittee. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and it will also be available for viewing after the meeting. I have been informed that we are not quorate as a meeting within the room today as we have less than 3 members present. I propose therefore that we hold the meeting virtually as we have members signing in. As was agreed by the Management Committee in 2018, in order to overcome the legal issue of needing to meet in person for any issues that require a formal decision, following this meeting, an email will be sent to all members setting out any decisions taken at the virtual meeting, asking if any member wished to object to the decision taken and to do so within. If an objection is received, then a special meeting would be called unless it will be possible to defer consideration to the next formal meeting. If no objection is received within the timescale, the decision would not be the decision would be implemented by the consortium secretary using delegated powers. This protocol was agreed by all constituent bodies and is reflected in the Constitution. Can I please ask that all members and officers have their microphone on mute until they wish to or are invited to speak? I need to let you know that we are not expecting a fire alarm today, so if one does sound, please use the stairs to leave the building and convene on the field opposite the visitors' car park. Please follow the Democratic Services officer. We have received apologies from Councillor Jane James from Norfolk and Mr. Fowler from Leicestershire and Fiona McMillan, Consortium Secretary. I welcome Mr. Patrick Taff, who is present for you. The first item on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of October 2025, which are pages 3 to 8 of the agenda pack. I propose that the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of October 2025 are taken as read, confirmed and signed. May I have a seconded, please? Councillor Bridgewood, great. You're going to second a lot of things today. I shall sign. Do I need to sign all 3 of these, please? Okay, cool. Item 2, declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda. Does any member have any interest that they wish to declare? Nope, neither do I. Item 3, there are no urgent items. And item 4 is the report for global internal audit standards in the UK public sector and governance documents, which are pages 9 to 46 of the agenda pack. Neil Jones, our Head of Internal Audit and Assurance at Leicestershire County Council, will introduce this report. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm just hoping that the absence of members isn't anything to do with the dryness of this subject today to start the meeting. Obviously, you've just explained the County Council as the servicing authority provides internal audit function for ESPO. And this report explains that the Internal Audit Service has been working to revised standards since April 2025. They are global standards, but with adaptations for specific UK public sector requirements and in cases specific local government requirements. There are 3 key governance documents required to meet conformance to the standards, and that's what I'm going to produce today. Each of the consortium members' internal audit functions will similarly be reporting on these key governance requirements at their own authorities, but these documents are specific to ESPO. Okay, so the first of the documents is the internal audit charter for ESPO, which is found in Appendix 1. This isn't a new requirement; it's been going for a few years, but the new standard required some subtle changes, and paragraph 4 contains the minimum requirements for a charter. Paragraph 5 explains that to develop the charter that matches the new standard requirements, I used a template provided by the Chartered Institute of Internal Auditors, which sped things up quite a lot. What it's not enabled you to do is to look back and express changes to the previous charter, but I think that's long gone and buried now. So the key changes are explained in bullets A to C. Of one of those, really, I just wanted to talk about is a mandate, a new requirement for a mandate in the standards. But in terms of local government internal audit, that is enrolled in the Accounts and Audit Regulations 2015. So we don't have to seek a separate mandate. And that's always been referred to in all reports of ESPO's charter. Just Following on, so paragraph 6 explains there are references dotted throughout the Charter to a new code of practice. That's going to be referenced in the next section of the report. I think that's all I need to say on the Charter. Are you happy I'll move on to the next section, which is the Code of Practice for the Governance of Internal Audit in Local Government. A very long title. I think I'll just refer to it as the code, if you don't mind today. So the next document, it's something that CIPFA recognised in looking at the new global standards as a specific domain with essential requirements in there, and they go further. Sorry, local government goes further in its requirements. For instance, we don't have a board as such. We have elected members to make our decisions. So CIPFA provided a code that is relevant to local government governance arrangements. The paragraph 9 explains, I did mention that, and we do have some differences. And then paragraph 10 explains how the code is set out. So it gives my functional authority, which we've always had, to be fair. It provides for us to act independently, which again we've always had, but it's tidied up on that. And then it provides for an audit committee, or in this case, Finance and Audit Subcommittee, to provide oversight. That's been tidied up quite a lot in terms of the responsibilities for the Finance and Audit Subcommittee. So because of the fact the arrangements differ at each organisation, I've created a specific self-assessment for ESPO, and that's to be found in Appendix 2. Overall, I wouldn't expect otherwise, I've concluded good compliance with the code, but some improvements are required, which are graded important to minor, and they are classed in paragraph 12, reported in paragraphs 12. F. So I think what I need to say on those is that we've had sort of tentative agreement from officers internal to the thing. I'll probably need to meet with Christian and his board to be able to go through those and just accept that they're acceptable. The timelines are quite tight in terms of I want to get them ready and finished in terms of getting my annual report ready, which is scheduled in October. And then in just final reference to the code, it is sort of vamped up, if you like, the role of internal audit in terms of the function. So conformance to the code will need to be reported in the annual governance statement when Gary does that. And then also when I do my annual report, conformance to the code, again, will need to be reported in that. So that's all I have to say on the code. And the final part of the report is an internal audit strategy. So this is the final governance document I'm introducing today. This is another new requirement from the new standards, and it's explained really why we need one, and to develop it. Again, I've used another toolkit from the Institute of Internal Auditors, which and just most of it is internally relevant to our team, so it is just passable across all the organisations. So I've developed a draft strategy, just given the uncertainty over the next couple of years. I've kept it to a 2-year time frame, and then we can review that as and when necessary. So that's contained in Appendix 3. Just finally, in the conclusion, Chair, just to say that there's a lot of information here. Some of the actions that need to be talked through, and they're still sort of work in progress. And I'm just seeking a bit of a delegation to make any changes and only bring them back if they're significant. So I guess that's all I need to or like to say today. If anybody's got any questions, gladly take them.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Trevor, do you have any top of mind questions? I have a couple. Hang on a minute. Let's make sure I'm getting this all right and happy. So you've designed this draft internal audit strategy, and this is intended, correct, just to outline what your priorities are and how we will. Yeah. Can I ask why you've chosen this particular list of things? Why you've chosen this particular list of things? Is this based on guidance externally, or is it just?
We have our own internal monitoring, key performance, and that. So we're aware of, and then we had an external quality assessment 18 months ago. Okay. So there were little improvements required in that, and it just shows it's a sort of statement of where we feel we are in terms of what are key things that we need to change over the next 2 years. Key one being our third one down, use of AI. And coincidentally, I think we've just booked all of our audit team on a AI session, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
For audit. So we've got a couple of auditors in the team of 9 that use AI, a lot, whereas others are, still a bit iffy. So that just in each of those cases, a recognition of where we are and where we think we are now in terms of key improvements to get where we want to be.
Cool. That's actually quite a helpful lead-in because I was going to query that specific one. So I get that you've identified that the current state is that we are infrequently utilizing AI and there is an objective to embed it. How are we going, or how do you plan to control to make sure that the AI is used appropriately and where relevant instead of indiscriminately?
Yeah. So we obviously the County Council, our employer, has AI governance policies and training, which we've all had to take part and sign up to. We had to sign up that we've undertaken that in terms of our use of AI. We only have sort of base level AI at the moment, the Copilot, so we can apply if we want to get more powerful tools. But in terms of what we're using it for currently, there's been a message across the team to say, obviously, you must check. You can't just accept what's there as a given because of any hallucination, as it's called. So we implore checks in there. But I guess as things develop more, we'll need to impose more of, I suppose, a cross-check against anybody who's using it for what. So, for instance, I called off an audit program the other day for an area, which happens like that, to check. But I wouldn't have just put it out because you obviously need to check that, and that's all part of our governance, the County Council's governance arrangements anyway. Is that sufficient for now?
Matt, do you want to say something? You look like you're trying to say something.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Dale said, that there's strong controls in terms of monitoring, planning the work in the first place, talking through potential uses of AI. Am I on? Yeah. Potential uses of AI, and then file reviews at the end. So there's quite a rigorous process to make sure that corporate policy is followed. That's all I was going to add, really, in terms of the process and the managing. Sorry, Neil, did you want to come in again?
No, I was just going to say it's a powerful tool for the team, but it's a powerful tool for me because in terms of the reports that I produce, and I did joke slightly at the start in terms of the dryness of the report, but from my starting point with this report, by using AI and shrinking it down the paragraphs, it makes it a little more amenable in that sense. So even in its basic sense like that, it's a helpful tool.
Sure, I understand. Can I please request of you that if you are going to decide that this is the forward aim, that you produce a report alongside the audit of the AI use, exactly why you've chosen the tags that you've chosen and how you manage and monitor it, because it's definitely like for audit, which is purposefully designed to scrutinize and be very detail oriented. And my own experience of AI is that it's not typically very detail oriented. So I think I would seek some assurance there before we blanket apply this as a policy as a target. I would really like to understand rational reasoning behind that.
Sorry, yeah, obviously the strategy was primarily designed for our main employer, the County Council, which is quite a way down the line of use of AI. So we needed to sort of play a little bit of catch up in terms of that, because where we're moving from now, we're just doing, for the County Council itself, doing an audit of the AI governance arrangements, which has gone through the committee stages there, and it's come through as good assurance on that. Where we're picking up now is our auditors are checking where AI is going to be used in actual systems, and checking that those controls that they're signed up to. In other words, not just making a decision or AI making a decision and passing it on. There is that human inference to have a look at it. So we've moved on by that. But yeah, by all means, if Angie can capture that in the minutes, we'll take something on that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That was my main query. Nothing from you, Trevor? Cool. Okay then. All right, I move that the Finance and Audit Subcommittee approve the, wrong page. I'm a professional. I move that the Finance and Audit Subcommittee note the work undertaken to develop the 3 GIAS UK public sector governance documents and agree a delegation to the consortium treasurer to make any necessary minor changes to each document. Do I have a seconder, Trevor? I'm afraid this is your duty for the rest of the day. All right, thank you very much, Councillor Bridgewood. Decisions to be circulated. All right, now we go to agenda item 5, the annual internal audit plan 26-27 at pages 47 to 52 of the agenda. Neil Jones, Head of Internal Audit and Assurance at Leicestershire County Council, will introduce this report. Over to you again, Neil.
Yes, Chair. I'm just going to introduce very briefly and then pass over to Matt for the details. So, constitutionally, paragraph 3 explains that there's a requirement for this subcommittee to receive and approve the annual internal audit plan. We're here today to provide that to you. I've mentioned before about the new standards, so I'm not going to dwell on those. But what the standards are slightly rewritten with what appears in paragraph 5. When I say slightly rewritten, they've changed the word annual opinion to annual conclusion. So that's something that is obviously we're going to take account of and make sure all our reports say the same thing. But it still means the same thing, so that ultimately by the end of the year, I have to give an overall conclusion that takes account of ESPO's governance, risk management and control arrangements. That's not really changed. So I think I'll just pass over to Matt now to explain the detail of how he prepared the plan and what's in it.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. So moving on to paragraphs 7 to 10, which predominantly covers off the consultation exercise. So as you'd expect, we talked to a lot of people about what's the control environment and what is happening in ESPO and what is likely to happen. Examples there are the director and the leadership team, the consortium treasurer and secretary, Neil himself, anything that's coming in sort of nationally on a national level, the staff within our team, because it's really important to get views from the coalface, as you can imagine. And then they obviously, they focus on key and emerging risks and sort of planned changes, potential risks and issues, as well as some of the cyclical audits that we do and audits that will still need to straddle financial years, because the audit year does not end on the 31st of March, obviously. We also then look at what external audit have done in terms of coverage, look at lines of defence, what are the lines of defence are in operation and where ESPO gets its assurances from. Look at ESPO's risk management process and their risk register. And we have got a 5-year sort of strategic plan that we update after each audit. So we'll tweak it depending on what we've found in terms of impact and likelihood of risk assessment, if you like. So from all that, we then obviously pull together the plan. One important thing to mention as well, though, is looking on a sort of national horizon. We look at risks. So we look at the Institute of Internal Auditors Risk in Focus, which talks, just interestingly enough, no surprise, cybersecurity is one of the main ones, and as is digital disruption and geopolitical uncertainty being one of the other ones as well, actually. So pulling it all together, then on paragraphs 11 to 14, talk about the plan itself, which also forms Appendix 1 to the report as well on page 51. So ensuring we tackle the right areas at the right time, subject obviously to the limitation of number of days. I think the plan provides a wide scope of audits. It addresses the 3 main areas, importantly, that Neil has to give a head of audit a conclusion on. I nearly said opinion there. Conclusion on governance, risk management and internal control, so it's spread across. We've got hot and key topics in there such as cyber and AI. We've got things, current events such as local reorganisation and the effect that may have on ESPO. And then we've got specific areas to the organisation, things like rebates, that are not typical areas. That's, to be honest, that's one of the reasons why I particularly like doing ESPO, because it's quite a bit of variety compared to just doing county council services. I also do fire and rescue as well, so that's another facet as well, so it's very good. And then we've got a counter fraud element in there. This financial year, the officers did a fraud risk assessment based on SIPFA guidance to say where potentially any key areas of fraud could be, and then we'll home in and provide assurance on that. And then finally, I think it's got a good spread, if you like, of financial risks and IT risks as well. It's really important to say, though, that we've got an element in there for contingency and for emerging issues. So we have got a degree of flexibility within the plan as it stands at the minute. But I'm at pains to say, I always say this, that come 1st of April, the plan's potentially out of date because things could change so quickly. So we do reserve the ability to flex and bring back to the committee anything that we've agreed with officers to flex, just to explain why and the rationale, which I'll actually talk about in the progress fee plan report, an example of that. Very briefly then, paragraph 16 and 17 talk about how we progress the plan, because I think that's important, that it's once the plan's agreed, we will then talk to the officers about which quarters to do the work in to fit around their peak workloads and our peak workloads. We'll agree the terms of reference, we'll conduct the work. Importantly, we'll go through interim findings, risks and potential recommendations with ESPO officers, so that I'm at pains to not have any surprises. I don't want any shocks in there. It's not in anyone's interest. You know, there could be compensating controls that we weren't aware of, etc. So that's really important to me. We then produce the draft for further conversation, which should, as I say, shouldn't have any shocks. And then we agree a final report and we update the committee regarding progress and also any high importance recommendations, which I'll come to in the progress fee plan as well. So that's very much a whistle-stop tour of something that's actually a lot of working papers go behind this to produce the plan and to get a spread with the time that we've got. So I'm happy to take, or Neil is happy to take any questions, obviously. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks very much, Matt. Am I correct in my understanding that this is my opportunity to ask for things be added to this forward plan? Cool. All right. Trevor, do you have anything to say first? I noticed during our last management committee that one of the rising reasons for staff absence was stress and well-being related issues. Would there be scope for us to do some kind of audit of employee well-being and similar things so that we can find out what people are happy with and unhappy with in terms of the support that they get at this organisation, and so therefore contribute to our, retention plans and things like that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, so what we've currently got, we've just done a staff survey, and that's going back to management committee and then it's committee. So that's a really good temperature test in terms of the organisation. And we've just agreed literally this week to work with public health, which I don't think the auditors will know, in terms of doing this indices pilot, where it looks at sickness absence and then other wellbeing metrics and tries to triangulate the data. So you get like a wellbeing index rather than just a sickness number. But I think they would be good areas for you guys to necessarily come and audit either one of those things if that was something that you were comfortable doing.
Yeah, what I would like to do, if it's okay, is I would like to look at the output from that first of all to see, obviously, the key areas to target. But I do think you're absolutely right. There's an element of independence with us that's very worthwhile. So yes, you got anything to add, Neil, on that?
Just checking that we hadn't done something recently. I'm thinking of, I know we've done some wellbeing audits somewhere else.
Yeah, we have done a variety of them, but not at ESPO recently, because on the whole, it's been sickness records have been good. So.
Yeah, I think my concern isn't just sickness. Like, I don't want people to be sick off because of stress, and the idea is trying to find that before it happens. But also just I've worked in companies before that do like employee satisfaction surveys and actually act on them. And if you've got stuff like 80% of the company is happy, but the 20% that aren't all fall into the same group, then that will help you identify where there are areas for improvement and how to be more inclusive and things like that. So if we could have some kind of assessment of that and our ability to manage that, that would be excellent. Do you agree with that, Councillor Bridgewood? Cool, that's excellent. Do you have a comment that, if we're happy to move on from that, do you have a comment on our satisfaction with our ability to audit our data management procedures? I'm aware that's a very big question, so if you need me to clarify more, I can.
We do a significant amount of work that's probably lost in the title under key ICT controls, because they're the IT general controls that look at a lot of that aspect as well. So I could let you have more detail on that offline if you wanted to see how that sort of crosses with the ideas that you've got. Would that be helpful?
Yes, that would be helpful. The main thing that I'm looking for is from a business growth perspective, having an understanding of how well together our databases and data structures are put together will allow us to do better analytics. And so having an idea of how good we are at that against industry standard would be helpful. Is that something that is possible? I'm looking at both sides of the room here.
We can certainly share what we do, and I'm happy for it to be audited, of course.
We have just completed some work on business growth as well, and how the, if you like, horizon scan and match and things like that, as in match benchmarking and such like, prices and things like that. So it's quite a intricate piece of work on that as well, and ensuring value for money as well. We did a separate piece on that as well.
Yeah, that would be great. It's a little bit meta in that where I would like to understand our ability to understand things. But yeah, if you could manage that, I think that would be a net positive for the organisation. Any further comments? Christian, do you actually have anything that you're concerned about that it might be worth us looking at? Or
no, I mean, I think it's probably just said we are blessed with a number of audit days. So we do have the opportunity to, when things arise, we might have like a whistleblowing allegation or something that we can turn to internal audit and dig into things. So yeah, we have a very thorough internal audit process in place. I've been part of getting the list together.
Great, just wanted to make sure our bases are covered. All right, then if Trevor is happy to second my recommendations, are we good?
Yeah,
cool. How does that change what's written on my script, Andrew?
Decisions to circulate.
Um,
So read the recommendation, please. And it will get circulated to members following.
Yes, so the recommendation is that we approve the internal audit plan, and I've just minorly edited it, so I wanted to make sure that that was all kosher. All right, well, in that case, then, with Trevor's second, I'm happy to approve it with the recommendations we just covered, and those decisions will be circulated. Agenda item 6 is the internal audit service progress against the 25-26 internal audit plan at pages 53 to 64 of the agenda. Matt Davis, again, our audit manager at Leicestershire County Council, will present his progress update. Thank you, Matt. You may continue.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so routine progress against plan report, but I say routine at this time of year. You know, if the throughput's not very good, then it wouldn't be a routine one. So, but I'm pleased to say, as per paragraph 4, it's the plan, obviously the 25-26 plan incorporated any legacy work from the prior year. The plan that was approved this time last year, actually, on the 12th of February last year. Paragraph 5 just explains that we're working towards, as Neil's already mentioned, global internal audit standards, the new ones in the public sector. Paragraph 6 and 7, I don't think there's any need to dwell on this, but it just talks about the assurance levels that we've got of being full, substantial, partial and little assurance. And if we rank something as little or partial assurance, it will contain some high importance recommendations that we'd follow up and retest and keep in this committee updated that the key risks have been addressed, which brings me nicely on to paragraph 9 talks about high importance recommendations, and I'm really pleased from our work that there's been no high importance recommendations to date, and there's no legacy ones. I really do think that that is very good. You know, it's not always the case. It's not always been the case with ESPO. We've had things, so it's not that we're looking at the wrong things or anything like that. We have had examples, but not in recent years. So that's a real testament to the officers, I think. The table on paragraph 10, which unfortunately straddles 3 pages, so we need to look at the formatting of that going forwards. But it updates the committee since last October when I spoke about the progress against plan. In summary, as you would expect, we've closed all prior year work. We've completed 7 final reports in 25-26, all with substantial assurance. We've completed another 5 advisory pieces of work that don't have an opinion. We've got 5 pieces of work that were classed as work in progress. And we've cancelled 1 piece of work as no longer relevant. I must apologise, by the way, on the bottom of page 55, I noticed today that there was an accidental typo. You'll see that framework agreements is mentioned twice. It's mentioned on the bottom of page 55 and on the top of page 56. It should actually be, the one at the bottom should be loss of or reduction in business, the audit. So that was another one that was work in progress. And we've mentioned that the framework agreements job was the cancelled job, which I'll come back to. So in concluding where we're actually at, we're well on track with the 25-26 plan, and there are currently no high importance recommendations. Obviously, Neil and I are happy to take any questions, but just to say, those ones that are work in progress, those 5, because we're getting close to the end of the financial year, just to let you know, bring you up to date, that one's in final, one's a draft has just been sent to the officer concerned, and one's just a review query. So I've actually reviewed it, and so we're progressing nicely with those. We've just got 2 others which we'd expect to be going very close to the 31st of March because it's sample sizes throughout the year. So that's your IT general controls, and it's also your recs and balances on the financial side. And then the only other thing I wanted to say, sorry, was in respect of framework agreements, because that's down as a cancelled job. Obviously, I'll let Gary come in if he wants to on this and any further detail, but it was based on what we do is we look at the external audit findings in the external audit report and see if there's any that they class as material control weaknesses. They had put something in relation to framework agreements, and it wasn't accurate in the end. Gary had managed to challenge it, and it wasn't accurate. It was, without going to all the details, it was, instead of framework agreements, sometimes there's exchange of letters and confirmation of awards instead. So the audit trail was there, and by all means, Gary, come in on this. So it was basically the controls were there, and it wasn't the weakness as defined by the external auditor. So we cancelled that job because there's no point in doing something that is deemed satisfactory. Gary, I can tell you want to come in.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, we have kind of discussed this with the external auditors, and so kind of they're happy. Obviously, the external auditors will be arriving in kind of not too much time in the future. So again, this will be covered as part of the 25-26 external audit as well, because they'll be looking to evidence all the transactions, and we should see this kind of being satisfied in that 25-26 audit.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and obviously, if the external auditors and different external auditors picked up on that, then we would put it back in the plan, basically. So
I'm going to trust that the legal advice you've had with regards to this is appropriate, and I'm happy that you've answered the question. Is that everything that you wanted to say?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Cool. Any questions from you, Councillor Bridgewood? Cool. Honestly, no high importance recommendations is kind of what I want to hear. So congratulations, Christian, on running a tight ship. I guess I am happy to then move to recommendations. So we have, I move that the Finance and Audit Subcommittee notes the progress update received for the 2025-26 plan and notes that there are no high importance recommendations within the subcommittee's domain. Do I have a seconder, Councillor Bridgewood? Thank you very much again.
Chair, just before we move on, I've realised, as I've been reading the papers, realised something for the consortium members, just to understand it. There's a big move towards placing assurance on other internal audit providers. So what we should have been doing, I think, is sharing our reports with your consortium, with your own local authorities, heads of audit. Now, they are public papers anyway, so they can find them. But what I tend to do when I do my annual conclusion, as it's now called, is I find other pieces of assurance that's been obtained elsewhere. So I'll just want to park that as a sort of note for the meeting, really, that I'll share these reports with once they've been approved, share them with my colleagues at the local authorities. Yeah.
All right, are we happy to continue then? Cool. Okay, item 7, the date of the next meeting. The next meeting of the subcommittee is scheduled to take place on the 7th of October 2026. These are 6 monthly at 10:30 a.m. And item 8, as I said, there are no urgent items. Okay, item 9. I move that in accordance with the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information. Do I have a seconder, Councillor Bridgewood? Yes, thank you. Up to you, Angie.